Jake Morrison opened his eyes and could not remember where he was. Everything hurt. His arms felt weak. His legs would not move right. The air tasted strange in his mouth. Cold air rushed into his lungs and made them burn. Red lights blinked all around him. Jake tried to sit up, but his body would not listen. He lay there for a long time, breathing the cold air, waiting for his mind to work again. Slowly, the memories came back. He was on a ship, the Genesis Dawn, an exploration ship sent from Earth to study deep space. Jake was the second in command. Captain Linda Hayes was in charge. They had a crew of 40 people, scientists, engineers, pilots, all of them looking for answers about the universe. But something had gone wrong. Jake remembered the briefing before they left Earth. Captain Hayes had stood at the front of the room and told them about the mission. 6 months of travel. 10 years would pass on Earth because of how fast they would go. It was supposed to be safe. It was supposed to be routine. Then they found the anomaly. A hole in space that should not exist. It broke all the rules of physics. The scientists wanted to study it. They sent machines to look at it. They ran tests. Everything said it was impossible, but it was there. Captain Hayes made the decision to go closer. She wanted to understand what they had found. The ship moved toward the anomaly. That was when everything fell apart. The anomaly pulled them in. Jake remembered the sound of metal bending. Alarms rang through every hall. Systems failed one after another. People ran through the corridors trying to fix things, trying to save the ship. But nothing worked. Captain Hayes gave the order. Everyone to the sleep pods. The cryopods that would freeze them and keep them alive if the ship was damaged. Jake ran to his pod. He climbed inside. The lid closed. Cold liquid filled the chamber. He felt it enter his veins. Then darkness took him. Now he was awake. Jake looked at the screen inside his pod. Numbers and words flashed in red. Warning, system failure. Life support low. Hull damaged. Power failing. All bad news. One number made Jake stop breathing. Time in cryo-sleep. 347 years. He had been asleep for more than 3 centuries. Everyone he knew on Earth was dead. His family. His friends. Everyone from his old life was gone. The world had moved on without him. Jake forced himself to move. His muscles screamed, but he made them work. He pushed the pod lid open. Cold air rushed in. He climbed out and fell to the floor. His legs could barely hold him. He grabbed the side of the pod and pulled himself up. The cryo bay was full of pods. Rows and rows of them. Jake could see faces through the frosted glass. Kyle Patterson, who had been his best friend on the ship. Victoria Price, the chief engineer who could fix anything. Craig Phillips, the doctor who always had a joke ready. All of them were still. All of them frozen. Jake walked to the nearest pod and looked at the screen. Flatline. System failure. No life signs. He checked another pod. The same, another, the same, they were all dead. Every single person on the ship except him. His pod had failed and woken him up. Their pods had failed and killed them. Jake was alone. He stumbled through the ship. The halls were dark except for dim emergency lights. Ice covered the walls. His breath made clouds in the cold air. The Genesis Dawn was dying. Maybe it was already dead. Jake made his way to the bridge. The door was stuck. He had to pull hard to get it open. Inside, everything was dark and cold. The main window was broken. Space showed through the cracks. And sitting in the captain's chair was Linda Hayes. She was frozen solid, still strapped into her seat. She had stayed at her post while the ship fell apart. She had made sure everyone got to their pods before she let herself rest. Captain Hayes had died doing her duty. Jake could not stay on the bridge. The broken window meant no air. He sealed the door and went looking for somewhere safe. Most of the ship was open to space now. Rooms with no air, halls with no heat. But he found one place that still worked. A small observation deck near the back of the ship. The deck had a big window that looked out at space. Jake sat down against the wall and looked at the stars. They were wrong. The patterns he had learned as a child were gone. 300 years of movement had changed everything. The stars had drifted. The constellations were different now, but there was something else out there. Something that should not be there. Huge structures floated in space, stations as big as cities. Ships moved between them, smooth and beautiful, not like the rough Earth ships Jake remembered. Lights blinked on the stations. Dozens of ships came and went. Jake was not in empty space. He was in a solar system. A busy one. One with people. But what kind of people? The ship's computer still worked barely. Jake pulled up the scanner. It showed the stations. It showed the ships. And it showed something else. Something coming toward him. A ship moving fast, coming right at the Genesis dawn. Jake had no weapons. The ship had no power for shields. If these people wanted to hurt him, there was nothing he could do. He sat by the window and waited. Maybe they would help. Maybe they would kill him. Either way, at least he would not die alone in the dark. The ship got closer. It was beautiful. Smooth curves and perfect lines. It looked like art, not like a machine. Earth had never made anything that looked like that. This was something different. Something better. Jake watched as the ship came alongside the Genesis Dawn. A tube extended from the other ship and connected to the airlock. Someone was coming aboard. Jake found a gun in a storage locker. It probably would not help, but it made him feel better to have it. He waited by the observation deck door. He heard the airlock open. Footsteps in the hall. More than one person. They were coming his way. The door opened. 5 figures came through. They wore armor that seemed to change colors as they moved. The one in front was tall. Taller than Jake, she moved like a soldier, like someone who knew how to fight. She took off her helmet. Jake saw her face and knew immediately that she was not human. Close, but not the same. Her eyes were bigger. Her skin had a shine to it like mother of pearl. She had small ridges along her cheekbones that humans did not have. But she was beautiful. Jake could see that even through his fear. She looked at him with those big eyes and spoke. A device on her armor translated her words into English. Put down your weapon. We will not hurt you. You are a survivor from the old ship. We came to help, old ship. The words hit Jake hard. How old was the Genesis Dawn now? How long had it been drifting in space? How long? Jake asked. His voice sounded rough. He had not used it in so long. How long have I been asleep? The alien woman tilted her head. Our scans show your ship is human. From Earth, from before the unification, you have been in stasis for 347 years. 347 years. The number was real now, not just something on a screen. Jake lowered the gun. What was the point? If they wanted him dead, he would be dead already. What is unification? He asked. Your people joined together. No more separate nations. One Earth. One human government. This happened 220 years ago. You are Jake Morrison, yes? We found your identification in your pod systems. Jake nodded. He could not speak. Earth had changed. Humanity had changed. Everything was different now. I am Commander Zalaxis of the Valorian Empire, the alien said. This system belongs to us. We protect it. We found your ship 3 days ago. You were sending out a distress signal. We came to help. The others, Jake said, my crew. They are dead, Zalaxis said gently. We scanned the ship. Only you are alive. Your pod failed and woke you. The other pods failed and did not wake them. I'm sorry. Jake felt his legs give out. He sat down hard on the deck. He was alone. The only one left. Everyone else was gone. Zalaxis moved closer. She knelt down beside him. You cannot stay here, she said. This ship is dying. Come with us. We have medical facilities. We can help you recover. We will contact your government. Tell them you survived. Jake looked around the observation deck. This ship was all he had left of his old life. But it was dead now, just like everyone else. He had to let it go. Okay, he said quietly. I will come with you. Zalaxis helped him stand. Together they walked through the dead ship one last time. Jake did not look at the cryopods. He could not bear to see his friends frozen there. He kept his eyes forward, toward the airlock, toward the future, toward a universe that had moved on without him. The Valorian ship was nothing like the Genesis Dawn. Everything was clean and smooth. The walls glowed with a soft light. The air smelled fresh. Jake walked through the corridors between 2 of Zalaxis' soldiers, trying not to stare at everything around him. They brought him to a medical bay. The room was white and full of equipment Jake did not recognize. A Valorian doctor scanned him with devices that hummed and blinked. She spoke to Zalaxis in their language. Jake heard the translator turn her words into English. The human is in poor condition but stable. 300 years in cryosleep has damaged his muscles and bones. He needs treatment and rest, but he will recover. The doctor gave Jake medicine. She put him in a machine that made his muscles feel better. She said it would take weeks for him to fully heal, but the machine would speed things up. Jake sat through the treatment and tried not to think about how far from home he was. After the medical bay, they took him to quarters. A room bigger than his entire apartment had been on Earth. There was a bed, a sitting area, a bathroom with a shower that seemed to use light instead of water. A window showed space outside with the massive Valorian station in view. "Rest," Zalaxis told him. "We are contacting Earth now. Your government will want to know you survived. It may take a few days to arrange everything. Until then, you are our guest." Jake nodded. He was too tired to argue. Zalaxis left. The door closed behind her. Jake was alone again. He sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. Everyone was gone. His crew, his family, his world. He was 347 years removed from everything he knew. The only survivor of a mission that had failed so long ago that it was probably just a footnote in history books now. Jake lay down on the bed. It was comfortable, too comfortable. He closed his eyes and tried to sleep. But every time he started to drift off, he saw the faces of his crew through the frosted glass of their pods. He saw Captain Hayes frozen in her chair. He saw the dead ship floating in space. Sleep would not come. Jake got up and went to the window. The Valorian station was huge. Ships came and went constantly. He could see other stations in the distance. This was a major hub, center of civilization, and he was stuck here waiting to find out what happened to his species while he slept. The next 3 days passed slowly. Doctors came to check on him. Soldiers brought him food. The food was strange but good. Jake ate and tried to regain his strength. His body hurt less each day. The treatments were working. Zalaxis visited every day. She brought him information about Earth, about humanity's progress over the last 3 centuries. Jake learned that his species had finally stopped fighting itself. One government ruled the planet now. They had colonies on Mars, on the moons of Jupiter, on worlds in other solar systems. Humanity had joined the galactic community. They had met dozens of alien species. They traded with them, worked with them, sometimes fought with them. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. "Your people are doing well," Zalaxis said on the 3rd day. "They have grown much in the time you slept. They are respected now, known for their creativity and determination." "What about the Genesis Dawn?" Jake asked. "Does anyone remember us?" Zalaxis looked uncomfortable. "The ship was declared lost 330 years ago. There is a memorial on Earth. Your names are remembered. But everyone thought you were dead." "We were dead," Jake said quietly. "I am the only one who came back." "Your government is sending a ship to bring you home," Zalaxis said. "It will arrive in 2 months. You are 60 light years from the nearest human colony. It is a long journey, 2 months. Jake would spend 2 more months here with the Valorians, then go home to an Earth he did not know, to a humanity that had moved on. He would be a relic, a curiosity, the man from the past. "There is something else," Zalaxis said. She seemed nervous, which was strange. Jake had never seen her nervous before. "The Empress has requested to meet you." "The Empress?" "Zyrania III. She rules the Valorian Empire. All of our territory, dozens of solar systems, billions of people. She rarely meets with anyone outside her inner circle, but she wants to meet you." Jake did not understand. "Why would an Empress want to meet me?" "I do not know," Zalaxis admitted. "She does not explain her decisions, but when the Empress commands, we obey. You will meet her tomorrow." The next day, Zalaxis came to his quarters early. She brought clothes, formal ones, black and silver, fitted to his size. Jake dressed and followed her through the station. They took a shuttle to another part of the structure, a section that was clearly important. Guards stood everywhere. The walls were decorated with art and precious metals. They stopped outside a massive door. 2 guards opened it. Zalaxis gestured for Jake to go through. He stepped into the throne room and forgot how to breathe. The room was enormous. Pillars of crystal rose toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves. The floor was polished black stone that reflected everything, and at the far end, sitting on a throne carved from a single huge gem, was Empress Zyrania. She was the most beautiful thing Jake had ever seen. Taller than Zalaxis, her skin glowed like pearl. Her eyes were the color of space itself, deep and full of stars. She wore robes that looked like liquid silver. A crown of light sat on her head, bright and perfect. Jake walked toward her. His footsteps echoed in the huge room. He did not know what to do when he reached her. He tried to bow like he had seen in old movies. It probably looked stupid, but it was the best he could manage. Jake Morrison, the Empress said. Her voice was beautiful too, musical. The translator turned her words into English but kept the music in them. The man who slept through centuries, who lost everything, who woke alone in my empire. Your Majesty, Jake said because he did not know what else to say. Cyrania stood and walked down the steps from her throne. She moved with grace that seemed impossible. As she got closer, Jake saw that she was studying him carefully. Her eyes moved over his face, his posture, everything about him. Tell me about your Earth, she said, the Earth of your time. Before the unification. Before humanity grew up, Jake thought back. It hurt to remember, but he did it anyway. We were divided. Countries fought each other. We had problems we could not solve. But we were trying. The Genesis Dawn was proof of that. Nations that had been enemies worked together to build the ship, to send us out to explore. And now your species is united, Cyrania said. You have colonies across the galaxy. Your people are part of the greater community. Does this make you happy? I do not know, Jake admitted. Everything I knew is gone. Everyone I loved is dead. I am alone in a universe I do not understand. I do not know how to feel about anything anymore. Cyrania stopped walking. She stood very close to him now. Close enough that he could see the patterns in her skin. Close enough to see that her eyes held sadness along with their beauty. I understand loneliness, she said quietly. I rule an empire. Billions of people depend on me. I make decisions that affect entire worlds. But I am alone in ways that most people cannot understand. The weight of power is its own kind of isolation. Jake looked at her. Really looked at her. Beneath the crown and the robes and the power, he saw someone who carried a burden he could barely imagine, someone who understood what it meant to be separated from others by circumstances beyond control. Before either of them could say more, the doors burst open. A Valorian officer ran in. He looked panicked. He forgot to bow to the Empress, Your Majesty. Emergency! The Crithian Dominion has attacked our border colonies. Multiple systems are under siege. We need your orders immediately. The warmth left Cyrania's face. She became cold, imperial, dangerous. How many ships? Hundreds. They have been building in secret. Our forces are outnumbered 3-1. Cyrania turned away from Jake. He saw her shoulders tense. This was someone who carried the lives of billions on her shoulders. Someone who had to make impossible choices. Mobilize the fleet, she commanded. Send word to the council. We respond with everything we have. She looked back at Jake. Forgive me, Lieutenant Commander Morrison. This conversation must wait. Return to your quarters. Jake started to turn away, but something stopped him. A memory of Captain Hayes, of duty, of what it meant to serve. He turned back. Your Majesty, he said. Cyrania looked at him, surprised that he had not left immediately. I was a military officer, Jake said. I commanded missions. I studied strategy and tactics. If you are going to war, you might need someone who thinks differently than your people. Humans have always been good at one thing, fighting when the odds are bad. Cyrania studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was small but real. Very well, Lieutenant Commander. Report to Fleet Command. Show us what humanity has learned about survival. The war room was pure chaos. Officers shouted at each other. Screens showed battles happening across dozens of star systems. Numbers scrolled past too fast to read. Red lights blinked everywhere. Jake stood at the edge of it all and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Admiral Krathvin noticed him first. She was an older Valorian with scars across her face and arms, a veteran who had seen real combat. She looked at Jake with clear suspicion. You are the human, she said. The Empress said you know military strategy. 300 years out of date, Jake admitted. But strategy is strategy. The basic principles do not change much. Come here, Krathvin ordered. She waved him toward the main display. It showed a map of space with dozens of Crithian ships in red and Valorian ships in blue. The red outnumbered the blue by a lot. Jake studied the display. Something about the enemy formation bothered him. It was too neat, too organized, like someone had arranged them carefully on purpose. This is a trap, he said after a moment. Explain, Krathvin demanded. Jake pointed at the map. Look at how they are spread out. They are attacking your colonies here, here, and here. But see these gaps? Clear paths for your ships to come through. They want you to see those paths. They want you to send your fleet to save the colonies. We must save the colonies, an officer said. Millions of people will die if we do not. And billions will die if you walk into their trap, Jake countered. He zoomed the map out. See this gap here? Too perfect. They will let you through. Then they will close behind you. Classic encirclement. They will cut you off from your supply lines and destroy your main fleet. Then nothing will stop them from taking the rest of your territory. The room went quiet. Everyone was staring at the map now, seeing what Jake had pointed out, understanding that he was right. What do you suggest? Krathvin asked. Her voice was hard, but Jake could hear the respect in it now. Jake thought back to his training, to the battles he had studied. Wars fought with primitive weapons but clever tactics. You need to make them think you are doing what they expect. Send small, fast groups to hit their supply lines. Make them think you are going for their logistics. While they respond to that, you push through at their strongest points. Their strongest points? An officer protested. That is suicide. Those positions are heavily defended. Exactly, Jake said. They will not expect you to attack there. They think you will take the easy path, so you take the hard path instead. You trade surprise for overwhelming force. Hit them where they are strong but not ready. Admiral Krathvin studied the map for a long time. Jake could see her mind working. Calculating risks. Considering options. Finally, she nodded. We will do it, she said. Prepare strike groups for harassment operations. Main fleet will assault the fortified position simultaneously. She looked at Jake. If this works, human, you will have saved the Empire. If it fails, we all die. No pressure, Jake said quietly. The battle began 2 hours later. Jake watched from the war room as Valorian strike groups jumped into Crithian space. They hit supply depots. They destroyed logistics hubs. They made the enemy chase them across multiple systems. The Crithians responded exactly as Jake had predicted. They pulled ships from their defensive lines to chase the strike groups. They thought they understood the pattern. They thought they knew what the Valorians were doing. Then the main Valorian fleet struck. They hit the fortified positions with everything they had. Shields blazed. Weapons fired until they overheated. Ships pushed through defenses that should have stopped them cold. The Crithians were caught completely off guard. By the time they realized what was happening, the Valorian forces had already broken through their lines. The trap never closed. The encirclement collapsed. The battle lasted 6 days. Jake barely slept. He stayed in the war room, watching the displays, suggesting adjustments when he saw opportunities. The Valorian officers stopped looking at him with suspicion. They started asking for his advice. On the 7th day, the last Crithian ships jumped away into hyperspace. They were retreating. The invasion had failed. The colonies were safe. Empress Xyrenia arrived at the war room an hour later. She swept through the doors like a storm. Everyone immediately dropped to one knee. Jake, who had been focused on a tactical display, did not notice until he realized he was the only one standing. He dropped to his knee quickly, his face turning red. Rise, Xyrenia commanded. Her voice filled the room. When everyone stood, she looked directly at Jake. Admiral Krathvin has told me that the strategy which saved our colonies came from you. I just suggested a different approach, Your Majesty, Jake said. The Admiral and her officers did all the real work. Modesty, Xyrenia said with a small smile. Admiral, your assessment. Krathvin stepped forward. The human saw what we did not, Majesty. He thinks differently, less predictably. In war, this wins battles. Xyrenia's eyes never left Jake. Lieutenant Commander Morrison, you have done the Valorian Empire a great service. You will be rewarded. Name what you desire, and if it is within my power, you shall have it. Jake opened his mouth, but no words came out. What did he want? To go home to an Earth he did not know? To be sent to a human colony where people would stare at him like he was a museum exhibit? To go back to sleep and hope things made sense when he woke up again? I do not know, he finally admitted. Everything I had is gone. I do not have a purpose anymore. I do not have a place to belong. Something changed in Xyrenia's expression. She gestured to the other officers. Leave us, the room cleared quickly. Soon it was just Jake and Xyrenia among the holographic displays showing the aftermath of battle. When I was young, Xyrenia said quietly, I was taught that an empress must never show weakness, must never admit doubt. I have ruled for 40 of your years. Every day I make decisions that affect billions of lives. I carry the weight of an empire on my shoulders. She turned to face him directly. And sometimes I feel as lost as you do. Jake stared at her. This powerful woman, this empress who commanded fleets and ruled star systems, was telling him that she felt lost too, that she understood what it was like to be alone even when surrounded by people. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Because you are alone, Zyrania said. Because you are lost. Because you understand what it means to be separated from everything you know. I have thousands of advisors, generals, politicians, people who serve the Empire, but none who understand isolation the way you do. None who see things as you see them. She stepped closer to him, close enough that Jake could see the patterns in her glowing skin, close enough to see the depth in her eyes. Perhaps that is what both of us need, she said softly. Someone who thinks differently. Someone who understands loneliness. What are you asking? Jake said his heart was beating fast. Stay, Zyrania said. Not as a guest. Not as a refugee. Stay as my advisor, my strategist. Help me protect this empire. Help me make the right decisions. Give me the perspective that no one else can give. I am human, Jake said. Your people will not accept an alien in your court. My people will accept what I tell them to accept, Zyrania said firmly. I am the Empress. My word is law. Her expression softened. But I am not commanding you. I am asking. Will you stay? Jake looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw power and authority, yes, but he also saw loneliness, burden, the weight of responsibility that never ended. He saw someone who needed what he needed. Connection, understanding. Someone who could see past the role to the person beneath. Yes, he said. I will stay, Zyrania smiled. It was the first real smile Jake had seen from her. It transformed her face from imperial beauty to something warmer. Something human in its own way. Good, she said. Then we have work to do. An empire does not run itself, and I find that I am very interested in your perspective on how things should be done. They stood there for a moment longer, two people from different worlds who had found unexpected common ground. Then Zyrania turned and walked toward the door. She paused and looked back at him. Come, she said. I will show you your new quarters. And tomorrow we begin. Jake followed her out of the war room. Behind them, the displays showed the saved colonies. The protected territories, the empire that had been defended. Ahead of them lay an uncertain future. But for the first time since waking up, Jake felt like he had a purpose again. A reason to keep going. He had lost everything. But maybe, just maybe, he was starting to find something new. The Imperial Court was not happy about Jake. He could see it in their faces, hear it in their whispers. An alien, a human, standing beside the Empress, advising her on matters of state. It went against everything they believed about how things should work. Some thought he was a spy for Earth. Others believed he had manipulated Zyrania somehow. A few simply could not accept that an alien could have anything valuable to offer the Empire. The whispers followed Jake everywhere he went. Jake tried to ignore it. He focused on his work. After the victory against the Crithians, other problems emerged. Pirates raiding shipping lanes, border disputes with neighboring powers, internal unrest in some of the outer colonies. An empire was never without challenges. Jake found that his human perspective helped in unexpected ways. The Valorians thought in patterns. They followed traditions. They did what had always been done. Jake thought differently. He saw solutions they missed, strategies they had not considered. Zyrania valued his input. She started asking him to attend council meetings, to review military plans, to give his opinion on diplomatic matters. The court nobles hated it, but they could not argue with results. Every time Jake suggested something, it seemed to work. But it was more than just work. Jake and Zyrania spent their evenings together. They would meet on the observation deck of the Imperial Palace and look out at the stars. They talked about everything. Her burden as Empress, his memories of Earth, the challenges they both faced. Jake found himself looking forward to those evenings, to the time when Zyrania could set down her crown and just be herself, when she did not have to be the perfect ruler, when she could admit to doubts and fears without worrying about appearing weak. And Jake could see that she looked forward to them too, the way her face relaxed when they met, the way she laughed at his stories about humanity's chaotic history, the way she listened when he talked about missing home. 6 months passed. Jake had been with the Valorians for half a year now. He had learned their language, though the translator still helped with complicated words. He had adapted to their food, their customs, their way of life. He was starting to feel less like a stranger. One evening, Jake was on the observation deck waiting for Xyrania. She was late, which was unusual. When she finally arrived, he could see tension in her shoulders. Something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked. Xyrania sat down beside him. She was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "The council met today. They want me to send you away." Jake felt his stomach drop. "Why?" "They say it is inappropriate for an alien to be so close to the throne. They say it makes the Empire look weak. They say I am becoming too dependent on your council." Xyrania's hands were clenched into fists. They gave me a list of reasons, all of them excuses for the real problem. "Which is?" Jake asked, though he thought he knew. "They are afraid," Xyrania said. "Afraid of change, afraid of anything different. Afraid that I am making decisions based on emotion rather than logic." She turned to look at him. "They are not entirely wrong about that last part." Jake's heart started beating faster. "What do you mean?" Xyrania reached out and took his hand. Her skin was warm despite its pearl-like appearance. "I value your counsel, Jake Morrison. Your perspective, your strategies. But that is not why I want you to stay. That is not why I look forward to these evenings. That is not why the thought of you leaving makes me feel like something important would be missing from my life." Jake stared at her, at this powerful woman who ruled billions, who commanded fleets, who could reshape the galaxy with a word. And she was telling him that she cared about him, not as an advisor, not as a useful tool, but as someone important to her personally. "I feel the same way," Jake said quietly. "These 6 months, getting to know you, seeing past the crown to the person underneath. I have not felt this connected to someone since before I went into cryo-sleep." Xyrania smiled. Then, slowly, she leaned toward him. Jake met her halfway. The kiss was gentle at first, hesitant. Two people from different worlds finding connection in the simplest human way. Then it deepened, became more certain, more real. When they finally pulled apart, Xyrania was still smiling. "The council will not approve," she said. "Do you care?" Jake asked. "No," Xyrania said firmly. "I am the Empress. I do not answer to the council. They answer to me. If they cannot accept this, they can find new positions elsewhere." The scandal that followed was massive. When Xyrania announced that Jake would be elevated to the position of royal consort, the court exploded. Some nobles demanded his exile. Others threatened to resign. Ancient laws were pulled from archives and debated endlessly. Through all of it, Xyrania remained firm. She faced down her council. She argued with her generals. She dealt with her own family members who thought she had lost her mind. But she would not back down. "I will not yield on this," she declared to the assembled court. "Jake Morrison has proven his worth 100 times over. He has earned his place. More than that, he has earned my trust and my respect. If any of you dispute this, challenge me directly. Otherwise, accept that your Empress has made her choice." No one challenged her. They grumbled. They complained. But they did not challenge. Because Xyrania was right. She was the Empress. Her word was law. And she had made her decision. Jake watched all of this happen and felt torn. On one hand, he was grateful. Xyrania was fighting for him, standing up to her entire court for his sake. On the other hand, he worried. Was he worth all this trouble? Was he worth the political damage this was causing? He said as much to Xyrania one night. She looked at him with those deep eyes and shook her head. "You are worth it," she said simply. "Not because of what you can do for the Empire, not because of your strategies or your counsel, because of who you are. Because you see me as a person, not just as an Empress. Because you understand loneliness and loss. Because you make me happy." "I make you happy?" Jake asked. "Yes," Xyrania said. Is that so surprising? A little, Jake admitted. I am just a man from the past. You are an empress of the future. This should not work. And yet it does, Zirania said. She took his hand. Sometimes the best things are the ones that should not work but do anyway. The coronation ceremony was set for 3 months later. It would be the first time in generations that a royal consort was crowned. The last one had been a Valorian noble who married into the imperial family. Now it would be a human, an alien, someone from a completely different species. The news spread across the empire quickly. Some colonies celebrated, others protested. Earth's government sent cautious congratulations, unsure how to handle the fact that one of their lost explorers was about to become alien royalty. Jake spent those 3 months preparing, learning imperial protocol, studying Valorian history, understanding what it meant to be royal consort. It was not just a title. It came with responsibilities, duties, expectations. But through it all, Zirania was there, helping him, teaching him, making sure he knew that he was not alone in this, that they were partners now, equals in their own way, even if the Empire would never see it that way. The night before the ceremony, Jake could not sleep. He stood at the window of his quarters and looked out at the Empire, at the vast expanse of space that Zirania ruled, at the billions of lives that depended on her wisdom. Tomorrow, he would stand beside her officially, would take on a role he had never imagined, would become part of something larger than himself. It was terrifying, but it was also right. A soft sound made him turn. Zirania stood in the doorway. She wore simple robes, not her imperial finery. Her crown was absent. She looked vulnerable, human in a way. Could not sleep either? She asked. No, Jake admitted. Too much on my mind. Zirania crossed the room and stood beside him at the window. Are you afraid? Yes, Jake said honestly. But not of tomorrow, not of the ceremony. I am afraid of failing you, of not being what you need, of letting down the Empire. You could never fail me, Zirania said softly. You already give me what I need most. Companionship, understanding, love. Everything else is just details. Jake turned to face her. I love you, he said. The words felt natural, right? True. I love you too, Zirania replied. Now come. Tomorrow is a big day. We should try to rest. They spent that night together, not in passion, but in comfort. Two people finding peace in each other's presence. Tomorrow would bring ceremony and spectacle, but tonight was just for them. The throne room was packed. Every noble in the Empire had come to witness the ceremony. Some came to support their empress. Others came hoping to see her make a mistake. All of them were curious about the human who would become royal consort. Jake stood in a side chamber, wearing robes of silver and black. They had been made specifically for him. Imperial robes, a symbol of his new position. He looked at himself in a mirror and barely recognized the person staring back. 6 months ago, he had been alone on a dying ship. Now he was about to be crowned as consort to an alien empress. Life had taken a strange turn. A Valorian official appeared at the door. It is time, Prince Consort, Prince Consort. That was his title now. Jake took a deep breath and followed the official into the throne room. The room fell silent as he entered. Thousands of eyes turned to watch him walk down the long aisle toward the throne. Jake kept his head up, his step steady. He would not show fear. Not here. Not now. Zirania sat on her throne in full imperial regalia. Her robe sparkled like starlight. Her crown blazed with captured light. She looked every inch the powerful ruler she was. But when Jake met her eyes, he saw warmth there, support, love. He reached the foot of the throne and knelt. The position felt strange, submissive, but it was part of the ceremony. Part of the tradition. Zirania rose from her throne. She descended the steps slowly, carrying a crown in her hands. Not her crown, a different one. Smaller but no less beautiful. The crown of the royal consort. She spoke in Valorian first, her voice carrying through the vast room. Then the translators rendered her words into dozens of languages so everyone could understand. Jake Morrison came to us from the past, a man out of time, a survivor of a lost age. He could have been sent home, could have been forgotten. Instead, he chose to stay, to serve, to stand beside me as I guide this empire through uncertain times. He has proven his worth in battle, his wisdom in counsel, his loyalty beyond question. Zyrania placed the crown on Jake's head. It was lighter than he expected, warm. It seemed to adjust itself to fit perfectly. "Rise, Prince Consort," Zyrania commanded. "Rise and take your place at my side." Jake stood. He felt the weight of the crown, the weight of 1,000 stares, the weight of history. He turned to face the assembled court. Some faces showed approval. Others showed anger. Most showed simple curiosity. Jake did not care. His eyes found Zyrania. She was smiling at him, proud, happy. That was all that mattered. The ceremony continued with speeches and formal declarations. Jake stood beside Zyrania through all of it. His legs started to hurt. His back ached. But he did not move. This was his duty now, to stand beside her, to support her, to be her partner in all things. Finally, it ended. The court filed out. Jake and Zyrania were left alone in the throne room. The moment the doors closed, Zyrania's formal posture relaxed. She turned to Jake with a real smile. "You did well," she said. "I just stood there," Jake replied. "You stood with confidence, with dignity. That is what matters." Zyrania took his hand. "Come, we have a few hours before the next round of ceremonies. Let us escape to somewhere quiet." They went to their favorite spot, the observation deck, away from the court and the politics and the endless duties, just the two of them and the stars. "How do you feel?" Zyrania asked. Jake thought about it. "Strange. This is not a life I ever imagined for myself, but it feels right. Being here with you, helping you guide the empire, it gives me purpose." "I am glad," Zyrania said softly, "because I cannot imagine doing this without you now." The weeks that followed were busy. Jake had to learn his new role, attend state functions, meet with ambassadors, represent the empire alongside Zyrania. It was exhausting, but it was also fulfilling. The court slowly began to accept him. Not everyone. Some nobles would never approve of an alien consort, but enough accepted him that the protest died down. Jake proved himself useful. His strategies helped resolve conflicts. His perspective prevented mistakes. He earned respect through action. Earth's government reached out officially. They wanted to establish closer ties with the Valorian Empire. Jake found himself acting as a bridge between his old species and his new home. It was strange but satisfying work. Human ambassadors came to visit. They were shocked to see Jake alive, even more shocked to see him as royal consort. They asked him questions about his time in cryosleep, about the Genesis dawn, about the crew who had died. Jake answered their questions. He told them about Captain Hayes, about his friends who had not survived, about waking alone in a dead ship. It hurt to remember, but it also helped. Keeping their memories alive was important. One ambassador asked him if he wanted to go back to Earth, to see how it had changed. Jake thought about it seriously before answering. "No," he said finally. "Earth is not my home anymore. Everyone I knew there is gone. The world has moved on. My place is here now, with Zyrania, with the Empire. This is where I belong." The ambassador looked sad but understanding. "You have found a new life." "That is good. We are glad you survived, Jake Morrison, even if you are no longer ours." "I will always be human," Jake said. "But I am Valorian too now." Both things can be true. Months turned into a year. Jake settled fully into his role. He and Zyrania worked together to guide the Empire. They faced challenges, diplomatic crises, economic problems, military threats, but they faced them together. Their relationship deepened. What had started as mutual loneliness and understanding grew into something stronger. Real love, the kind that survived stress and difficulty, that made both of them better people. One evening, a year after the coronation, they stood on the observation deck together. Jake looked out at the stars and thought about how far he had come. "How much had changed? What are you thinking?" Zyrania asked. She always seemed to know when his mind was wandering. "About the journey," Jake said. "How I went to sleep expecting 6 months and woke up 347 years later. How I lost everything. How I found everything again in a place I never expected. Do you regret it?" Zirania asked quietly. The time you lost? The life you could have had? Jake thought about Captain Hayes, about his crew, about the Earth he had left behind. Then he looked at Zirania, at the woman he loved, at the life they had built together. No, he said, I regret the losses. I wish my crew had survived. I wish I could have said goodbye to my family. But I do not regret where I ended up. With you, here, this is where I was meant to be. Zirania smiled and pulled him close. I am glad, because I cannot imagine my life without you now. You have given me so much, Jake Morrison. Perspective, wisdom, love, things I did not know I needed until you arrived. You gave me purpose, Jake said, a reason to keep going when everything else was gone. You saved me in ways that go beyond just rescuing me from a dead ship. They stood together in silence for a while. Outside, the Empire stretched across the galaxy. Billions of lives depending on their wisdom, countless challenges waiting to be faced. But inside, in this moment, it was just two people who had found each other against impossible odds. The Council is still unhappy about us, Zirania mentioned. They think I should have chosen a Valorian consort, someone who fits their expectations. Do you care? Jake asked. No, Zirania said firmly. I am the Empress. I chose you. That is the end of it. They can grumble all they want. But my decision stands. Jake kissed her. It was gentle, comfortable. The kiss of two people who knew each other deeply, who trusted each other completely. I love you, he said. I love you too, Zirania replied. Now and always. News of their relationship spread across the galaxy. Some species approved, others were scandalized. Humans were divided. Some saw it as proof that humanity had truly joined the galactic community. Others worried about the political implications. Jake did not care about the politics. He cared about Zirania, about the empire they protected together, about the future they were building. Everything else was just noise. Years would pass. More challenges would come. The empire would face wars and crises and countless problems. But Jake and Zirania would face them together. Partners in every sense of the word. Empress and consort. Alien and human. Two people who had found love in the most unexpected place. Jake had slept in solitude. He had lost everything. He had woken to a universe that had moved on without him. But he had also found something precious. Not just survival, not just a new life, but love, purpose, belonging. He had been crowned by an alien empress. But more importantly, he had been chosen by her, valued by her, loved by her, and that made all the loss worthwhile. The stars wheeled overhead, eternal, unchanging, but beneath them two hearts beat together. Human and Valorian, proving that even across the vastness of space and time, love could bridge any distance, could overcome any obstacle, could turn solitude into connection. Jake looked at Zirania and smiled. She smiled back. No words were needed. They understood each other perfectly. Two souls who had found each other in the darkness, who had built something beautiful together, who would face whatever came next as partners. This was home now. Not Earth, not the past, here with her, in an empire of stars, with a future stretching out before them full of possibility. He had slept in solitude, but he had awakened to something greater than he ever imagined. And that was the most human story of all, the journey from loss to hope, from isolation to love, from sleeping alone to waking be.